Miss Liz Delgado. We met each other many, many years ago in San Diego when we were both working inside of the real estate company. And boy, golly gee, you have come so far, haven't you?
Yeah, no, first of all, thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. Yes, it's been, yeah, we met in San Diego and I moved up to actually Central Washington, Yakima, Washington, about 5 years ago. And it's been amazing. It's been really starting all over again. Been an agent for 18 years, but coming to a new area, starting all over, not knowing anyone, and starting from grounds up. It's definitely been, I don't want to say a roller coaster. It's been a very nice adventure so far. So
You,
this area
you,
has been very good to me.
that's awesome. I consider this journey in life an adventure. And as we, you know, pull the trigger on something as brave as moving out of state, it is like a giant, exciting camping trip sometimes, depending on where you're at in life. As you look back and all the experiences you have, what's something that you miss about San Diego?
Oh my goodness. Well, I miss my friends for sure. I spent what 17 years, almost 17 years in San Diego. I'm originally from the Bay Area, but I loved everything about it. I think the climate, the people, you have everything there. But like anything else, it's good to explore. It's good to go out, learn new areas, find new areas and whatnot. But if I had to pinpoint to one thing, it would probably be the sun. For
Yeah,
sure. For sure.
I
Yes.
get it. But now you're in beautiful Washington. I can only imagine your outdoor life experiences have probably quadrupled.
Mhm.
As people are watching this video and explore and wanting to explore new parts of the country, what are some of the hot buttons that Yakima has to offer on a professional level and even on a family or outdoors level?
For sure. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that we are starting to see a lot of people from California, especially California, other states as well. They're starting to explore more areas where it's a little bit more community-like. Yakima is probably the heart of the agriculture. So a lot of the apples, the asparagus, all of the main supply of a lot of the main fruits come from this area. It's hop nation. So a lot of the beers that you guys drink out there,
Uh-huh.
most of the hops, I would say about 80 to 85% are produced here in Yakima. So that's one thing. Those are very, very strong areas in this city. You also have, let's see, a lot of industrial, a lot of manufacturing. And if you go to the west, because we're about 2 hours, I say 2.5 hours from Seattle, you have more of the high tech. You're going to have your Microsofts, your Amazons, Prime, all that type. And then east of the Cascades, you're going to have more of a metropolitan city, but you're also going to have Prime, Amazon, kind of the bigger guys out there. Yakima is a central location, but again, it's huge in production for agriculture. So most of the fruit, your apples, they all come from here. They go all around the world. So it's big time. So.
So if we were talking to a buyer today and they were considering moving to the area that you're representing, what are some of the tips that you would give to them in today's market environment there?
Yeah, I think the people that are coming out here were a couple of them. Number one is we're seeing a lot of people that are moving out of state. They're either downsizing, retiring, or whatnot. We're also seeing younger generations that have the flexibility to work from home. So
Yeah.
if you're someone that works from home and only has to commute perhaps once a week or whatnot, we're starting to see that a lot. So people that are coming out here want the small community, want perhaps the bigger home with a little bit more acreage, a little bit of country. You're still in town, you're not in a farm, although
Yeah.
there are farms out here, right?
Yeah.
But no, these are just communities where it's just a little bit more, everybody knows each other. It's a small town.
Yeah.
Um, Most people work from home here, and a lot of people, believe it or not, these are going to be second homes to them. So this is going to be an area for someone again that has the flexibility to work from home, or if you come with a job relocation, perhaps in a company out here, if you have to commute to the west side, it's an easy thing to do. So.
And I've had a lot of conversations with buyers as I pre-approve them about, wanting to step away from the city and be further away from their
Mhm.
corporate office than ever before. And a few years ago, it was a big deal where, we had to get a letter from the employer. We had to document the reasonableness of the commute from, their home to their office. But in today's new environment, post COVID, it is very, very common for an employer to say, hey, work from home, get your job done, and then come to the office for the sales meetings. And sometimes what that means is a 90-minute drive to the office once a month or twice a month, or sometimes that means jumping on a plane once a month, twice a month, just to go check on your team or check in with your boss, whatever different levels you may be. And so it's becoming more and more common for people to live outside of these major cities in a more of a community family environment,
Yeah.
to entertain that higher quality of life.
Yeah, I think you hit it there. I think we're going to start to see too. I mean, I just see it a lot of entrepreneurship. You
Yeah.
really have those people that are either starting new businesses, or have established themselves with the side business. That's something we're starting to see a lot. And oh, by the way, Yakima does have an airport here, so you can actually get on a plane, really close from home, and hop in and be in your destination within hours. So it's not that bad. But again,
You,
it's the new common thing. It's the new, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you got to love that TSA pre-check right now. You keep your
For
shoes
sure.
on, keep your hat on, you go through
Yep.
TSA real quick, and you're off to the races pretty soon. With regards to some of your, some of your handful of recent transactions you've had, what's the transaction that's popped out a little bit in regards to a challenge that you've overcome, or something that was kind of significant in your eyes?
Yeah, I would say we do a lot of volume here, so I would probably say the most important one thing right now is probably who you work with. And I say this sincerely, whoever you choose to work with, that's great, but make sure that you have a team of experts behind you,
Yeah.
specifically on the loan side. That's a big thing. No, it happens a lot where people come to me, they're a referral, they have their lender, and I respect that. I understand that. But it's the moment you get into the process where they assume they are pre-qualified, and they don't. They're not. They're not
Yeah.
fully qualified. Perhaps the lender that, they did an online approval, or they spoke to someone really quick on the bank, just did a verbal quick questionnaire and didn't really take the time to educate that end user. That's what we're seeing a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say right now, probably the most challenging or thing that we overcome is really connecting them with someone who is an expert in that area,
Yeah.
specifically the loan. Especially right now, you know this. I mean, rates are higher. It's an education. People are still buying. There's programs out there. I would probably say work with someone who really has your back and has the experience to help you go through and navigate through the transaction.
Yeah,
So.
I provide, initial pre-approvals for buyers often, and many times I also provide second opinions. And sometimes I don't really know how they came up with that original pre-approval. So what we like to do here at my office is we like to, get that buyer pre-approved and collect their financials. And through that process, we also like to upgrade them to something that my company calls power bid approval, which is where we actually take that loan application at the pre-approval stage and submit it to underwriting. So yes, it might take another day or two to get that power bid approval, but now we have a loan commitment letter
Yeah.
where the underwriter has signed off on the pay stub, the tax return, and the bank statements. And the only thing that we're subject to at that point is the property and the traditional property approval conditions. Um,
Mhm.
the last couple of days, rates have come down. So happy to see that. It's a bright light in sometimes a cloudy environment.
Mhm.
And I have a couple customers that I jumped on this morning to help them with their pre-approval again. And what we did this morning is that we locked in their interest rate for 90 days. So
Woo.
they're pre-approved. They got the power bid approval, so they're underwriter approved. They have yet to find the right property, but we took this little window at pre-approval stage and locked in their rate. So now as they move forward, as they're shopping for real estate, their payment is not going up. And, that takes just one less thing off of the equation of
Mhm.
challenges that could come up, is that
Mhm.
when as a listing agent, when you, Liz, are looking at an offer coming in and the pre-approval was from, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks
Hmm.
ago,
Hmm.
you have to ask, like, well, this pre-approval says a 6.75 rate, are they still pre-approved at 7.2, right? And
Correct.
so we have to, vet those buyers, correctly, because the market's been just moving so rapidly.
Hmm. And going back to what you said, I think one thing, again, going back to really communicating with your buyers well, I think that's also the difference is I've been, not to say I've been in the industry a long time, but after a while, you just see it over and over and setting up the expectations up front, making sure that you're not afraid to ask those questions. I deal with these buyers all the time. Who are you working with? How long have they been in the business? And I don't say that just to, I want to know what to expect and I kind of know where the transaction's going to go. If I feel that that person is not really, perhaps does not have the experience to make last minute changes or whatnot. But again, going back to setting up expectations because things do change rapidly. And again,
Right.
letting that client know, what to expect. I think that's really key, especially right now because everybody is just concerned about the rates jumping, going up. And we don't know really in the future what to. Well, I know there's a lot of say that rates are going to go down. Eventually, they will. But setting up again those expectations with people, I think, is very important. So.
You know, a while back, you had a listing, and I had the pre-approval for that particular buyer, and there was a buyer's agent representing the buyer. And even though we've known each other a long time, you still got picked up the phone as a representative of your seller and asked me the tough questions. So I know you're really good at asking those questions as far as how did we create that pre-approval? Did you
Mhm.
collect the buyer's financials? What interest rate did you use? Is that interest rate still valid? Those are, some basic qualifying questions that I remember you asking me in the past when you were representing your sellers. In today's market, what tips are you giving to sellers in efforts of helping them, be the best, helping them sell their property, knowing that there's a chance that the property may sit on the market a little bit longer than it did 6 months ago?
Yeah. I think it's a great time to buy because of that. I think now sellers are a lot more realistic. They're very in tune of what's happening on the market. Here, we're starting to see people offer credit, and we bring it up. We do set up expectations with the seller. Don't be surprised if you see in a contract that a buyer is asking for closing costs. Now, I will say this: it doesn't necessarily mean that the seller is going to give that, but
Right.
most of the times, with a good conversation and whatnot, they do. We're seeing
Mm-hmm.
better negotiations. I think sellers are more realistic. They understand what's happening on the market and they are offering basically credit closing costs for the buyers once an offer is, if an offer is presented or whatnot. So we are definitely seeing a lot more leeway with the sellers. And I like it because it's kind of like the old days. You're kind of going back to the old days, really negotiating. Before we couldn't. It was
Right.
like if your offer was in, we would tell people you're 20, 30K above asking price. And even at that, there is no guarantee you're going to get that offer. It's true.
Right.
It was the truth. There was no guarantee. And now what we're seeing are offers coming through. There's negotiation. People are going back and forth. And it works well because buyers feel like they're being heard. They're
Mm-hmm.
getting their offer accepted. And the seller feels that they still did something about it. So I really do like the market right now. I always tell
Yeah.
people focus on the price, focus on negotiating, and setting those expectations. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I've seen being duplicated from the old builder world into today's real estate market is a seller credit, as you mentioned. And what we're doing with that seller credit is we're initiating the 2-1 buy down.
mhm.
So sometimes, to back up, the 2-1 buy down gives the buyer a low interest rate for the first 2 years. The first year, the rate is 2% lower. The second year, the interest rate's 1% lower. And then for the rest of the life of the loan, it's still the same interest rate and still a 30-year fixed loan.
Yeah,
But when we look at the cost that the seller contributes to help get that 2-1 buy down, and generally speaking, a $13,000 seller credit can help the buyer save about $500 to $800 a month in their payment the first year. And
hmm,
then we start to scratch our heads like, well, what other way would we be putting a transaction together? Because if we did a price reduction of $13,000, I mean,
exactly.
it's not a real big dent in the loan size or the cash out of pocket. So the 2-1 buy down has been a big win to help protect the sales price for the seller and
Hmm.
also protect the sales price for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because if we start to see a lot of comps at discounted prices, then the appraisers have to check mark that box declining market. And
Yeah.
so by keeping the sales prices high, or not
Hmm.
higher, but balanced,
Hmm.
the appraiser can state that the market is stable,
Yeah.
and then the lenders have less scrutiny on those transactions. So it's been a big win for the environment and also for the customer, the
Yeah.
buyer.
Yeah.
So really like using that 2-1 buy down as much as we can.
And you mentioned that reminded me is that's exactly what we're seeing here is educating the seller and offering that credit because we are seeing reductions, but they're really not that, they're not big reductions. They're small adjustables. And I will tell you, offering that credit is so much more powerful to a buyer,
Yeah,
knowing that you're going to save on your closing costs, how much you're going to save a month, as you just explained, the first 2 years, and then the second year, and then having the flexibility if rates do go down to circle back with you and basically say, "Hey, I heard rates went down," and having that option to refinance during that term. But
yeah,
that to me is very powerful right now. We're starting to see it under confidential remarks where the seller is offering the credit. So people are not afraid to make an offer and say, "Hey, I would like that 3% back." It goes a long way and it makes a big, big difference. So, for sure.
absolutely. Well, hey, as we kind of finish this conversation, what's happening for you next? Do you have any big open houses coming up, a new listing, anything?
Oh my goodness. All of the above. We're out there every weekend doing open houses. Properties are still moving and whatnot. We have a couple of properties coming on the market. If you're looking for a property by the river close by, it may not have a river view. We do have that coming up pretty soon. What else? Open house this weekend. Yeah, no, hit me up if you have any questions or anything. Um,
Put that fishing pole in the river there?
Exactly. If you're looking for, this is the area, right? Really quick. Yakima is, you have the 4 seasons. So you're going to have, um, autumn is beautiful right now. The leaves have all changed colors. It does get cold here. You do have the snow, so you do have that. But during spring and summer, it's warm, it's nice, it's beautiful. And again, affordability is another thing here, is that prices here are definitely a lot more reasonable than out of state like California or whatnot. And I think that's why it's a big attraction. So
Awesome. Awesome.
cool.
Well, Liz, thank you very much for joining me today. And
Thank you.
yeah, I look forward to all your successes and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.